All right, graphic arts students, welcome to your second option for your graphic arts final assessment, which is your last project that you'll have to do for the rest of the year. Isn't that exciting? All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. This is your graphic portrait illustration project. So if you've completed the turn a graphic or photo into a graphic assignment, where you turned a picture of a pizza into a little clip art of a pizza. This is basically the same thing, just a little bit more challenging. So I've got quite a few examples for you guys to take a look at. And what I'm going to be doing in this video is I'm just going to be talking you through what I did to create these and show you a couple of different examples. The big thing to keep in mind here is that this is all done with the pen tool by tracing shapes from photographs, filling them with color, and then arranging them on your canvas so that they make sense. This is a pretty short video because I don't go step by step. You don't actually see me using the pen tool to trace out individual shapes. I'm basically showing you how I've taken the shapes that I've already traced with the pen tool and how I've arranged them to create my finished illustration. So let's go ahead and take a look. I'm basically showing you three different ways of how I did this with three different pictures, just to kind of give you a couple of different ideas of how you could go about doing this. So again, this is pretty challenging. If you are comfortable with the pen tool and using the pen tool to create shapes, you should be able to do this. But if you have been struggling with using the pen tool up to this point, I recommend going back to the mythical creature photo manipulation. You may find that that one's a little bit easier for you to work with. It doesn't require you to use the pen tool as much. So that's definitely a better option for you if you're not comfortable with using the pen tool. So let's go ahead and take a look at the video I've created. All right, so this is one of my examples for this graphic illustration portrait. So this is a picture that I took of myself last Halloween, and I turned it into a graphic illustration. So I'll go ahead and show you how I did that. So here's the original picture that I used, just a selfie that I took with my phone. And so now I'm going to show you how I traced each of these layers with the pen tool to create these different shapes that I built this illustration with. I'm looking at it and I'm thinking about which pieces of the details in this photograph are farthest away and which ones are closest. And I want to start with the ones that are farthest away. So I did the shirt first. I did the neck next. I did the pink parts of my hair, which were underneath the lighter parts. I did the necklace on top of my neck. I did the lighter parts of my hair. I then did the skin of my face, the shadows of my face. And then I started working on the facial features like the eyebrows, the lips and the eyes, the whites of the eyes. And then I did the colored parts of the eyes on top of those whites. And I used the gradient tool for that. And then I used the circle shape tool to create these just simple circle shapes for my eyes. I used the pen tool to trace the eyeliner around my eyes to get that kind of makeup effect. And then I did the hat last. Once I had traced all of these shapes with the pen tool, I turned the background picture off and I created a interesting color background just by using the gradient tool. So one thing to keep in mind with this is that I traced each layer as I kind of just by breaking it down visually into different shapes. And I didn't always trace them in the correct order. Sometimes I had to move layers around to make them make a little bit more sense. Like I think I may have traced the necklace first and put it, and it was like underneath another layer where you couldn't see it. So I had to rearrange that layer so it made sense for the final product. All right. So that was one example. Here's another example where I took a picture of Lady Gaga from her most recent music video, and I did another graphic illustration using that picture. So I'll show you how I did that, just kind of step by step. So I've got my original picture here. And another thing to keep in mind is that as I was tracing these different parts, I would turn them on and off so I could see the picture underneath them to kind of like make sure I was getting the shapes right. So I would trace the face to get the skin color, and then I would turn the skin color off, and then I would trace like the facial features so I could still see them because the skin color was blocking the original picture. So don't be afraid to turn your layers on and off to help you work around that and to be able to see your photograph as you work. So for this one, I started with the hair, and I actually had her hair separated into 3 different layers, just depending on how it fell over the rest of her body. I had her skin, the shirt that she was wearing, the shadows, more parts of her hair that were on the top of her body rather than behind her face. And you see I have these 2 little, like, black circles, and you'll see why they're there in just a minute. They don't quite make sense where they are right now, but you'll in a minute, you'll see. I did the thumbs and the rest of the hands separately because they were kinda different shapes. I wanted to make sure that they were arranged correctly. So I did the thumbs first because they were kinda, like, on the inside of the hand, kinda behind the hand, and then I did the hands over the tops of those thumb shapes. And I added those little fishnet glove details on top of those hands. I've got the shadows around her eyes. I've got the pink little details on her face. And I did the black eyeliner bits where her eye is closed, her eyebrow, her teeth. And then over the top of that, I did the little small dark parts of her nose. And then I did the lips. So as you can see, I did the lips in 2 different shapes. So there was some skin showing from behind. So I added those black spots to kind of like, make it so you couldn't see the skin from behind her lips. I added the little details in the black, the rest of the hair color, and then I took a look at the whole overall image. So then I turned off my original picture, so I'd have the background. And if you notice, I have a little bit of white kind of like showing behind like the parts of her hair. So to get rid of that, you'll notice on the little layer preview down here on my layer window, you'll see I have that gradient that I created as the background. But you'll also see there's a little bit of black. And that was just where I took the brush tool and just colored in this area right here behind her hair to give it a black shadow, because if I hadn't done that, you would see the color of the background showing through there, just where those parts that I created with the pen tool, where those sections didn't quite meet all the way and there was a gap in between them. All right. So again, here's what the finished picture looks like. And then I had one more example that I was going to show you. This one's a little bit more cartoony and simplified, so you don't have to be as realistic with these pictures. You can start using a photograph and then create slightly more simplified pictures based on that picture, and then build up those layers to create a little illustration that's a little bit more cartoonish and exaggerated, which is what I did with this one. So just building up those layers with the facial features, the nose, the lips, the jewelry, the eyebrows, and then the glasses last. Again, I was working from bottom to top, from the part that was the very, very bottom, which is usually the clothes or the skin that the person is wearing, skin that they're wearing, and then the layers on top of that. So this is your other option for your graphic art assessment. Again, you can choose one or the other. You do not have to do both. I want you guys to pick the one that best suits you and the kind of artwork that you are really interested in creating on the computer. So have fun, and please hit me up if you have any questions or need any help with anything.